this time. I've been strictly on the mat, but I've been in charge of like scheduling the conferences and doing that stuff. But Miss Karras has been the one doing the conferences and getting all the enrollments. So, and enrollments and renewals. So, pats to her.
Yeah.
Uh, but what I've
Yeah.
heard from her is it's really easy, and a
Mm.
lot of parents just always come up to me like, "Oh, I didn't turn that sheet in today, but I'm going to have it this day." Just like
Let's
so they
let's
know they're
have Miss
engaged.
Karras then. Is she right at your shoulder there?
Actually, yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you
Hello.
are. Okay.
You know, it's so interesting to reflect back to when we first introduced these black belt training programs back in 2015 is when we really, decided to create them, introduce them. And we had maybe a handful of people initially join. It was like trying to pull a train uphill, just really trying to get the idea across of what this is and what the value is. Fast forward to even maybe 5 years ago.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but you know what's so funny is I remember the conversations I had with you back then.
Yes.
When you said, if you remember what you said, because I do, you went, well, I think it's too much. I don't think they can afford it. This program, it was all about the price, and they couldn't afford it. And they just said it wasn't worth it. And and what is the difference now? And tell us how you flash forward. And of course, this didn't happen overnight.
Absolutely. Even fast forward to 5 years ago, by then we had some momentum. We had quite a few students in there, but it was still a learning process for us as far as the verbiage in every class. We had a good understanding of what the program was about, but still kind of struggled to communicate that. And so when I would go into a conference, then there was still a little bit of quite a bit, I would say, of explaining it and having to answer questions. And the parents still, they needed, it was like trying to just pull them through in the renewal conference rather than selling it on the mat. Now, fast forward to today, when I go into these conferences, the parents are already very well educated on what we're going to talk about, what the next steps are. And we're finally to the point where they're basically handing over their credit card and like, please, my child's begging me, and they want this and they understand the value of it. So it wasn't just an overnight thing, but I think by us just really listening to how you present it again and again, and like you just said, say it verbatim, and also getting our mind wrapped around, this is what we do. It's not, we're trying this, we're going to try to convince people, or, it's just get your mind around, this is what we do here at our school. We enroll a student and right from day one, explain this is a trial program, and to see how much you love it, to see if you qualify for our black belt training, and just explain we are a goal-oriented school. Again, just getting your mind wrapped around, this is who we are and this is what we do. And, this is what we're looking for you to qualify. Great attendance in class, great support from your parents, a good attitude on the mat, a good attitude at home, which is signified by the stripes on their belt. So from day one, they know there's something that they're already needing to qualify for. And then at every class, pretty much every class, we're calling somebody up at the end to present them their visualization sheet, or the next step, or the popcorn bucket, And so it's finally that momentum where at every class it's being illustrated to them, and we're able to use that verbiage in the teaching. And then in the end, when we're presenting these steps, so now when I go into a renewal conference, these parents are so well educated on what we are talking about and what the next steps are. And the kids know. And it's just been so enjoyable now for a kid to come up to me and say, when do I get my popcorn bucket? It's like, they know that's the next step, and it's such a simple thing, but to them, it means so much because it means I've qualified. My instructor sees something in me. And that's something that the parents, I think, are very proud of when they walk into that renewal conference. So it's kind of like, instead of, hey, let's introduce this next program and let me try to convince you of the benefits of why it costs more. Now it's just a thing of, hey guys, let's have a conference because we've arrived. We've been working toward this moment. And Yeah. So, and I think it also helps students and parents be more committed once they're in our leadership program. If it was a conversation of me just trying to smooth talk them and convince them to drop more money, what about 2 or 3 months from now or 6 months from now? Are they as committed? But since they've had to go through the process and really understand what they're qualifying for and see for themselves the benefits with these other students that are already in it, now when they're in the program, it's just that much more valuable. They're not leaving. I mean, not to say nobody leaves, but it's really helped with retention too. So.
And the good thing, and the reason I wanted you to talk about it is because I remember that you are no different than a lot of our other members who don't understand. They think they have to bring them in and sell them in the office, and like you said, pull that train uphill, trying to get them to commit and trying to overcome every objection. See, that's not what the renewal conference was supposed to be about. And but I tell you, Karis, it's not just your instructors selling from the floor, because obviously I've seen firsthand the verbiage that they've been getting down and doing more and more, and teaching even their instructor trainees that verbiage, and teaching the assistant instructors that verbiage. But just looking at you right now, looking over your shoulders, all of that verbiage behind you, that signage, she's sitting in the school at the front desk, when that's what people see when they come in. But if you, and I put pictures that panned around the school that had all of the signage that you did for, that was hanging down from the ceilings. And I remember the first time I saw your school when y'all decorated for the renewal blitz, and it was like bare bones, right? And then I sent you a picture of the Thornton Mile High, or I think you all even came to a live event then, and you saw all those signs and you went, wow, I couldn't believe they have this much. No wonder ours looks so bare. But you see, your school has to say it. Your instructors have to say it. And for the same thing with you Quick Start members, and for the members that have been with us for a while, are you using that enrollment folder? Is that the first thing that they do once they're signed up on the program? Did I set an appointment to go over their enrollment folder? Tell us about that enrollment folder, Karis, how much that helps on pre-framing, and how that gives you a chance to talk about qualifying and how that process is going to be. And we're a black belt school, and this enrollment folder talks all about it.
Yeah, that folder conference, again, just at the beginning, it seemed to me like just another step. It was a little bit annoying. Like, why do we have to make another step? But actually, I've come to really love it because, well, for several reasons. When I'm doing an enrollment, there's a lot of information to go over. And so when it comes to the good habits folder and those good habit sheets, I do present them and show that it's a huge part of our curriculum. It's a character development, but I also love that I can say, we're going to get into this at your next class of how they could start earning rewards. And it just doesn't drag the conversation out even longer when I'm trying to enroll them. So it gives them something to look forward to. The very next class, that's when we do the folder conference, where we're looking through the good habits folder, and I'm again explaining.
And that's very important, Karis, what you just said. We don't do that folder when they're signing the paperwork. We set a folder conference up when they come to their next class to do it either before or after. And I will tell you, especially on those months where you have more enrollments, you don't have to do all these enrollment folder conferences individually. You can do 3 or 4 families together, because it's just talking in general what our stuff is and the procedures, and it's real easy to do. And it's not personalized as far as we're not talking finances or commitments or any of that. We're just going over what this folder is and how they earn those character stripes. But tell me the difference of the way you
quick question, sir. Can I interrupt? Sorry. Quick question.
Go ahead.
How long is your intro conference, how long does that generally take you?
That's
And
not the
how long is the
intro.
folder
That's
meeting?
not the intro
Not-
conference.
Sorry, not
that
the
we're
intro
talking
conference,
about.
the enrollment conference. How long does that take? And then how long is the folder conference
Now
generally?
remember,
us-
that's 2 different days, Jeff.
Yeah,
The
so for
enrollment
us, an
conference
enrollment
is on the
conference,
second. Go ahead, Karis.
here, let me see. Okay. Hang on one second. Just getting it. For us, an enrollment conference could be 10 to 15 minutes. You know, sometimes it'll take a little longer if the parents are more chatty, but I try to keep it to 10 minutes because we typically have them back to back, and we have to fit a few in within a class time. The folder conference, 5 minutes. We try to keep it to 5 minutes. And we have done it, like you said, Grandmaster Smith, where it's several families together, maybe 2 or 3 families where we're going over it together. But here's another reason I love it. It's a great way to just kind of reiterate some of the details that maybe they didn't pay attention to, with because it is a lot of information. They're new to us, right? So we go over class attendance again. You know, I'm just going to kind of show the different checklists that we have here. So we just make sure that they understand about class attendance, how we communicate through emails and through our Facebook member page. The extension policy is what we call it. So just reminding them, even if you miss classes, the tuition will continue to roll, you know, but if they miss a significant amount of time, like a month or something, then we could tack that time on the end, but the tuition continues to roll. So going over belt testing, you know, those details, scheduling their birthday party, that's on our list too. You know, when's your birthday? Hey, we get a free birthday party with us. Let's get that on the calendar. We schedule their first progress conference, which is 3 weeks out. And so it's always having that appointment on the books where we're going to meet again and meet again. So nobody's just, like you guys always talk about, throw them over the fence and forget about them. How many years did we do that? You know? And so now it's like, okay, let's set the date 3 weeks out. We're going to meet again. And how I word it is, you know, real casual, but just, it's a great way in case you have any questions that have popped up, because they're new to us. They may have questions that they didn't know to ask. So questions that may have popped up, I can answer those. And then also the instructors can give some feedback on how your student's doing. And I know every parent wants to know how their kid is doing.
Yeah. And that 3-week appointment, guys, that is the foundation of keeping the system working. And that's the problem that people have, is they don't even have another conversation with you till you start talking to them about renewing to black belt. See, there has to be this constant contact during their classes. You've got to be giving parents feedback, and no better way to do it than to have it scheduled so the parent knows when that's going to be. And you treat it just like an intro, where they get a reminder, they get a text, a call when you have it. So you put it on your books like an intro appointment, just like you should be doing on your renewal appointments, just like you should be doing on a first or second intro. Those should all be constantly sent with another voice, text, email, confirmation, a call that day. See, these are the things that are happening. But when Karis, I really like to use you as the example, Karis, because not only did you start that having when y'all were first initiating this new stuff, because that's what a lot of our members are. They're trying to initiate something new that hasn't been, they don't have 50% of their people renewed already. And the reason why is these things that you're just talking about. What happens on that folder conference, and when we do it, and how do we do that selling from the floor? Now, the other advantage that you have, Karis, is that you actually had some other commitments, and you stepped away from the school for a year or two, and but the school kept going, and then they were also learning this stuff that maybe when you were there the first time you didn't get down, and then you came back. And you tell us about the difference in that time you were gone to when you come back, about how much the school had advanced in those other things.
Yeah. When I when I came back, I thought it was going to be business as usual. I can do this role as program director in my sleep. I was wrong. When I came back, this train was moving so fast. When we talk about drinking from a fire hose, I still feel like that every day because, but in a good way. There's so much traffic coming in because we've upped our marketing. I mean, every day we're flooded with leads. I'm constantly booking intros. We're constantly bringing families in. Like I said, almost every day we have introductory lessons, either first time or, people within their free 2 weeks. So almost every day I have enrollment conferences, plus now keeping up on the renewals. And it's just that snowball effect of the more you bring in, now the more there is to renew, to leadership. And it's a great problem. I just wanted to mention too, when I mentioned about 5 years ago, we finally felt like we had a good handle on it, but it was still a little bit of a struggle when I would go into the renewal conferences. It's because, like I said, our staff was still kind of learning how to sell it from the floor. And I remember being very frustrated and saying, you guys, it's like starting from scratch when I get back into the office to talk with them. Well, in the last 5 years, and especially the couple years that I've been gone, they have nailed it. They really have nailed it. And it's such a team effort now. And that's what it should be. It shouldn't just be on one person trying to make it happen. And so I love that I can go to the instructors and say, here's a student that's struggling or losing interest or blah, 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 whatever it is, they're on it. They're highlighting them in class. I mean, they know what to do to get a student pumped up again. I love that we collaborate together with nominating students for our leadership instructor training program. And I don't want to hijack the conversation, but that's actually another detail that I thought, we don't have time for that. That's how, I don't know. It was just annoying to me. Like I just try to put more on my plate. Now I love it so much for a lot of reasons. First, because when I'm in an enrollment conference, or even when I'm just out in the lobby talking to someone who's here for their very first visit, I love that I can point over to students who are out there shadowing our instructors and say, hey, check this out. We've got a formalized leadership instructor training program. And that's something that students eventually can qualify for. And then when I'm in an enrollment conference, same thing. I can, hey, we're getting them started in our beginner program. It's a great trial for them to try it out. I just want you to look out on the mat. Do you see the students in white uniforms? They're just like you, just trying this out, qualifying for black belt training. The ones in the red uniforms, they're the ones that have made that commitment and they are committed to training to first degree, second degree. And then I could point out our leadership instructor training students and say, check out those guys. See this girl here, she's only 8 years old and look how she's helping demonstrate. Or this kid, he's only 7 and he's helping me greet people when they come in the door. Those visuals are so powerful. And so I really think that lends to, again, educating parents without me having to say very many words. They can see for themselves, I want my kid to be like that. And then the other reason I love the instructor training program is because, like you said, I took a step back. It was about 3 years, just to kind of be home with my kids a little more. Now that I come back, the kids that were in the instructor training program, a few of them are now on staff. And it's like just in them. They know what to say. They know what to do because they grew up being groomed for this in our instructor training program. So it's not like we're saying, hey, student, come on staff. Now we have to teach you the scripts and teach you what to say. It's just in them because they've heard it thousands of times and they've been part of that growth. So just for so many reasons, I love that program. It's a great selling point. It's a great visual for even when we get into renewal conferences, okay, you've been in our basic program a while, but now let's talk about committing to black belt training. Oh, and by the way, did you know there's even more? There's so much more in store. You could qualify for our instructor training program, but then also, for future staff, so valuable. So.
And when we talk about it, I remember when we were first getting your instructor certification program going, because you didn't have enough help in the classroom. how much does that resonate with a lot of you guys out there, that you need more help in the classroom? And now, how many people do you have besides your paid staff? How many? I noticed the last time I was there was at least 3 or 4, and sometimes 5 or 6 helping out in every single class that I saw. There was never one where there wasn't any trainees in the class. What kind of impact does that make?
Yeah. And what I love to tell parents when they're learning about this is, we're teaching these students to have more purpose than just coming to class for themselves. Now their purpose is to be looking outward. What student can I greet? Who can I show them where to put their shoes? How can I help demonstrate? Helping with the good habit stripes. So they're thinking outward. And I tell parents that skill is going to carry them everywhere they go in life. Now, whatever situation they're in outside of the studio, they're going to be thinking outward. Who can I help? Who can I lead? And I really believe that. It's not just, a selling point to me. I truly believe that. But the parents, they eat that up because it's true. And it's so powerful. So yeah, I'm definitely for that. All of these systems, it is tough to get started from nothing. But I just would say, just decide we're going to do this, and just get your mind wrapped around the idea, this is what we do, and get started with it, because it won't take long. A few years, that snowball effect will pick up. It'll pick up that speed. And before you know it, it will become a culture.
And the last thing that I want you to talk about, because again, we hit some important elements here that are all pre-framing kind of stuff. When you pre-frame for the black belt training, it's black belt leadership is part of that. But when you have people that are in the class that are actually helping with the class, and then you spotlight them and tell them what they're there for, and how they're going to be an instructor. And remember, class teaching is learning. So these instructor trainees are learning their martial art at even a bigger depth. So when they get their black belt, they're going to do even better on their black belt test, because they not only know how to do it, they even know it well enough to be able to explain it to someone else. See, this is all of the stuff that you have to do to pre-frame your leadership, pre-frame your instructor training. And if you do that all properly, and if we do it according to our system that we're trying to get you to do, it all becomes an easy process where you don't feel like you have to pull it out of somebody to get them to do this, or force them, or convince them. It's just an easy transition. And the last hurdle that we had with Master Harrison's school there was the marketing, because I know back maybe in the 15 and that, y'all were not getting enough intros, you weren't getting enough traffic, and I still remember when y'all said, well, we're doing everything we can, and then when we started checking all sources of marketing, that there was so much more. And then you kept building. What I tried to tell you guys to do, as I tell the other schools, is to build your own marketing Parthenon, because every year, and we posted it, and it's in the quick start, a sample of Mile High Karate's 12-month marketing plan. And it has every month what they're going to do. Well, how do they know that? Well, that's just a outline. They're going to be adding stuff, subtracting stuff. But every time you do something, that's adding to your list of things you can repeat again and again. Some of these things can be repeated every month. Some things can only be repeated seasonally. Some are repeated during the summer. Some are repeated during the winter. School programs and summer programs and things that go on. But tell us, because what I tried to get you guys to do, that I've told other people to do, but not everybody has done it, is to commit your marketing to a plan, to a calendar. Don't just say I'm going to do this or that, but where is it on the calendar? And when you look at that calendar, is it full? Tell us how you did that, or what a difference that made in having all of this traffic that you're getting now.
Yeah, I really have to credit Master Harrison for taking the lead and really driving that. I remember back in 2014, 2015, and sitting in his office, and we just felt like we had no budget. You know, it was like very, very little budget for marketing, very little. So it was up to us to just be real creative. And it was a lot of footwork going out into the community, setting up our booths and that kind of stuff. But then he really just took the leap and started investing into online marketing and other avenues. And then at the same time, I was starting to go to conferences and learning about the Parthenon and how you had to have multiple things going at once. So it was definitely a learning process for me. And it was definitely a leadership process for him, just kind of taking the lead and taking the risk. Really, when you don't feel like you have much budget to put into it, it feels risky. Like you feel like there's no guarantee you're going to get much back. But we've learned you always get what you put into it. And so now our marketing budget, of course, is much greater because of just how well the system's working. It's bringing people in. And so that's great.
And knowing how to evaluate those investments. So you're not just arbitrarily dumping money into something that isn't working, because every marketing that you do that you pay for, you have to do your ROI, your return on your investment. In other words, how much did I end up marketing this month? How many leads and enrollments and intros did I get from that? And then see what my cost per lead or cost per intro or cost per enrollment was. And then it tells me whether I can double down and increase it, or whether I need to switch gears here because I'm not getting my return on my investment. You see, marketing is not just, when it comes to paid marketing, it's not just throwing money out there. It's making sure that whatever you're spending, you're getting a return on. And that's why, and I beat up a lot of people on this, is keeping good stats. How beneficial has that been for you guys to be able to look at all these stats and do the comparison analysis and know exactly where the holes are?
Yeah, huge. And I will say there's some of those old ideas we've continued, because you have to have you can't just rely on online marketing. You can't just rely on one thing. You have to have all the different pillars. And so when I say boots on the ground, going out to events, we still do that. But like you said, once you do it, just keep year after year. It's like rinse and repeat. So we have our 4-month calendar in the office. We know what we're doing 4 months from now. We have those dates and even beyond, but that's kind of like what's in our face, But yeah, we know every year we do cruise nights once a month down in a downtown area right here where we set up our booth, and we have a good handle now on how many leads that we can expect out of a night. I know I could book about 30 appointments just by standing there for a couple hours. We do a local race in the fall every September, so we know how many we can get from that. There's just several events throughout the whole year that we know we could count on. Trunk or treats. The schools have been learning about us and reaching out to us more. We just finished a 5 or 6 week thing at area schools. Like each week we went to a different school and did a workshop. We just did a family night. We've already got 2 renewals out of it, like enrollments and then renewals out of it. I mean, it's just so great. And one thing that we've been kind of talking about in staff meeting that I need to get better at, but we're getting a handle on, is once you do an event, talk to the whatever event director or whoever's in charge and book it for the next week or for the next year. Don't walk away without having the next event, whether it's an annual thing or saying, hey, what else do you have throughout the year, and getting that booked too, so that you have your calendar full of events and keep those relationships going.
And this has been very helpful Karis, and I know that Vanessa has been a big part of this. And of course, Master Harrison is orchestrating all this, and Kyle and your other staff members have been carrying their load, because that's what, what we try to tell everybody is it all cannot be put on one person. It has to be spread across a team. And that's why if you don't have your team yet, you got to start building that team. And now sometimes it's a catch-22. I hear some schools say, well, I'd like to have more staff, but I can't afford it. Well, that's why you have the instructor certification program, where you can have extra people. That's why you go ahead and invest in your school, and you hire another part-timer that'll come in and help on when your busy days or busy classes are. And maybe that's a little over your budget right now, but if you utilize them correctly and you train them properly, then you can even increase their hours, or maybe hire another part-timer. So you got to build as your school builds. And that's a little, I wanted y'all to see what, again, they did 126,000, but they've averaged about 100,000 a month this year. Last year was their first year at hitting the $1 million mark. And rather than hit the million and slide laterally, I gave them the goal of, okay, well, we hit that one threshold. Let's go to the 100,000 a month. And now that we hit that this year, we'll go to the 1.5 or the 2 million. But listen to what she was saying and notice the comprehensive different areas that we touched on, that those are the things that you're trying to get in line. But notice she didn't do all of this in 1 year. You hear her talking about 5 years ago when things were starting to click and get into gear. And I know I've talked to Master Harrison several times on this factor, where he'll kick himself in the butt because he'll say, I don't know why I was so thick-headed back then, but I wasted so many years of not initiating everything, but I was just getting bits and pieces and doing just that bit or that piece. And finally, he started implementing them all. And once you got them all going, it's no different than a race car, and you got it hitting on all cylinders rather than 4 instead of the 8. And now you're getting all cylinders going. And so a little look-see into what you should be doing to make a $1 million plus school, $100,000 a month school.
Master
Jan,
Smith?
does this sound familiar, Jan? Tell us a few things that was a common ground that you were going, yep, did that, yep, was there.
Well, I remember talking to Karis, and I remember when their numbers were lower, and like, she was so inquisitive. I loved that about her. She was always like wanting to learn, and going and implementing it. Karis, you've been amazing. And she did. Remember, she was like not shy, would go up to people at meetings and just find out what they were doing. But I agree with everything she said. Same thing here is it's like, I actually texted my people when we were talking. I said, doesn't that sound like us? Because we're so busy all the time. It's like you have to, it's hard to keep up with all the flow and everything that's going on. And then you have to have the systems to do it. And you guys have showed us how to do that. And then, and I agree with we call them goal setting meetings, folder meetings. We do those. We do them every 2 weeks. We do a parent orientation that we do once a month. And we bring the parents in, and we kind of, instead of doing an individual folder meeting, we do that in addition to the folder meeting, where we get everybody together so we don't miss anything. And it really works. And it's because of the stuff that you've told us to do.
And, guys, listen to these schools, because both of these are over the 100 mark. Both of these have commonalities that Jan could sit there and tell you those same exact things, because she was back. I remember when her school wasn't doing $1 million a year, back when it was doing 50,000. And originally she was kind of happy with that until she found out she could do so much more. And that's what happens with a lot of you guys. You don't realize how much you can really develop if you don't set your goals too low. Keep pushing those goals up higher. You know, that's why I like to hear Paul Helson, because he reminds me of both of those two schools, the way that he's been progressing and the things that he's doing and the numbers he's hitting. He'll be the next one up to the million mark. He almost made it last year and will be, I think, the 100,000 mark next year. Tell us the things that were common to what you were hearing, Paul, and what things in there did you pick up on that you might have missed doing so far yet?
I think it's with the completing the process, especially a pre-framing from the mat of leadership process, getting all the pieces in place and seeing them all starting to hit. You know, we're probably about 3/4 of the way there from where they were talking about.
Awesome. And
So is there someone who could speak to the example of starting by yourself doing all this instead of starting with a team already? Like what's the first step? What am I selling from the mats? Okay, I'm going to go watch that video. What next? I have pieces of all this stuff in place. What's the next piece I need to put in to get it going? Because the amount of stuff you guys are talking about just seems so gargantuan and it's taking years to do. So what is the next step?
you want me to comment on that, or would somebody like to, that's been there, can explain to him?
I'll go, because when I first started my studio, it was just me, nobody else, just me and my kids. And so eventually I built up a team of helpers, and then the helpers started helping teach. I brought in a couple people from outside and they got black belt with me. They started teaching. But the biggest thing for me is when I hired a program director, because just like you, I was doing it all and it's a lot. But there's a lot of parents also that will help out. They'll do marketing. They'll do little things. You've got teenagers that can do boosts for you. There's a lot of free help you can get. It's a matter of organizing it all and follow the systems as best you can using the people that you have and with what you have. But for me, investing in a program director and training her was the best thing that I ever did, because it just took, then she handled a lot of the marketing, a lot of that stuff, and I could oversee the instructors and all that kind of stuff and getting on more people.
Did you hire her full-time or did you start her off part-time?
I don't even
remember that far back?
I don't even remember. I think it was full-time. But I would start right now. I'd start part-time. I mean,
Yeah.
Rachel's
Did you hire a martial artist, a family of?
She was a family. She was a mom. She was a mom.
Okay.
Yeah. And she ended up getting, I think, her red belt or something. She was just a mom. Yeah. Just a mom, a great mom, and then I've had other moms that have taken that role. Even Kinsey, who's on this call, she's almost a black belt now, but when she first started, what were you, 15 years old and you were a white belt? She started as a program director, the best program director I've ever had. So they don't have to be a black belt or 25 years old. They could be 16-year-old teenager that is really smart and really bright.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Jan. I always like to hire from within. And I know Master Oliver and Master Moody and some of the other schools have been successful with hiring from, outside their school. But I always say you always look within first. And then if that doesn't fill it, then go out, because the bottom line is you got to have some help. You can't do it all by yourself. And then as you start growing, you can start expanding that a little bit based on the active count. And the more things that you have, they're going to be able to do more marketing and stuff like that they can engage in. But that's what I would suggest. Does that answer your question, Jeff?
Let me make a comment on what Jeff's saying. I don't know if that fully answered it, but a couple pieces that Jan mentioned too is, one is that they don't have to be a black belt, and they don't also have to be with Kinsey, I think is her name that you mentioned, Jan. They don't have to be 21 or 18. So I've had staff that was 12 or 13 years old, and they were enrolling people. And sometimes people say, well, yeah, how could they enroll people or ask for money or get other people to sign contracts? Well, it's the person that's enrolling that's signing the contract. So there's no reason that somebody that age, if you can train them, if they're trainable, that you couldn't have somebody young doing all of that. Sometimes they're easier to train than somebody that's